together with your revered guests. What really happened was that since last week, we programmed the nominees to be vetted for the entire week. As a result of a derogatory statement against me and the members of the committee, we've taken Wednesday to deal with the problem. That has affected our calendar, and same should have been communicated to those who were unable to vet on that Wednesday. I agree to the fact that you are scheduled to be vetted on Wednesday. The letter that you read actually came from the secretary as directed by Bernard Ahiafo, the chair of the committee. So as a matter of fact, you did not smuggle yourself to be vetted yesterday. The letter was not retracted for you to be scheduled. So that was the shortfall. And on behalf of the committee, render a sincere apology to you and your revered guests. So, honorable nominee, I think the apology from the chair should settle the issue. Thank you very much. Then we then proceed to ask you.
So, Mr. Chairman, how the press conference? The press conference addressed by the minority.
The media is covering us. And I've stated clearly that the committee takes responsibility. We wrote the letter to you. So if it is Honorable Sami Okudzeto, my good friend, if it were to be fair, I will not be apologizing to you on behalf of the committee. That is why I am pleading to you that accept my apology on behalf of the entire committee. Therefore, this time, if you want to insist on our rights, maybe the whole day. So please, once I have taken the responsibility, and I apologize to you and your revered guests on behalf of the entire committee, whoever is a member of the committee, that based on the unfortunate incident, did a press conference or a statement in the media or a post in the media, I am on behalf of everybody apologizing to you. So accept my apology and let this matter be settled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kindly proceed to tell us about yourself.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my name is Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, born on the 11th of August 1980 in Accra. I hail from Afehime Bato in the North Tongue district. By way of basic education, I was in Association International School at Airport, proceeded to the only secondary school in the world, Presbyterian Boys Secondary School. Then proceeded to the University of Ghana, where I read political science, philosophy, and economics. I have a master's in international politics and defense, another master's in communications and PR, an executive certificate in leadership from Harvard Kennedy School. My master's were from the University of London and the University of Leicester. I also have a professional Prince 2 qualification. I am currently serving in my 4th term, representing the chiefs and the good people of North Tongue. I have served as ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee for almost 8 years. In the 8th Parliament, I also served as chair of the Assurances Committee. I've held various positions in public service, including Deputy Minister for Information, appointed by His Excellency Professor John Evans Mills of blessed memory. May his soul rest in peace. My dearest mentor, who I miss greatly. I was also appointed by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I served as Deputy Minister for Education in charge of tertiary education. I currently chair President Mahama's flagship anti-corruption team, the Operation Recover All Loot team, a position I'm very, very proud of as chair, and I will miss dearly when I hand over in the next few days. Mr. Chairman, kindly permit me to convey sincerest gratitude from the depth of my heart to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for this appointment. I have already assured him that I will give it all and I will make him and the country proud.
Thank you very much.
I'm concluding, Mr. Chairman. If you give me 30 seconds. I must also thank my dear mother, Her Excellency Professor Nana Jenobokwajiman, the first female Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. And in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank senior and veteran diplomats and former foreign ministers of our country who have all met me, Dr. Obeda Samoa, Ambassador D.K. Osei, Ambassador Beho, who have all been very, very supportive since my nomination, all the other ambassadors and staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I definitely reserve the best for last. My loving, dear, supportive wife, who has always stood by me. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Our revered guests, please, you will have to take part in the proceedings in silence. We'll then proceed with the actual vetting, and I will recognize Asafo Ajay to start with his questions. Asafo Ajay, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Honorable Minister, I would like to congratulate you once again. I am a Gabon boy, so it serves well to have one of us being here. But Mr. Nominee, I am a bit worried, particularly with the diplomatic posture of our president when it comes to the Sahel and how it will impact on the image of Ghana as a democratic country.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important question you have asked. And interestingly, ECOWAS will be 50 years this year, and Ghana is likely to host the 50-year celebrations. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama believes that our regional integration agenda should be pursued and should not be abandoned. And so even though our three closest neighbors, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, broke away from ECOWAS, and only this week their breakaway became effective, ECOWAS announced that they have completed the cessation. We need to be conscious of the fact that as closest neighbors, even though we are promoting democracy and we have all said no to coups, we face serious threats. The threat of violent extremism and terrorism. And so, as good neighbors, President Mahama is of the view that he should not give up on dialogue. Article 40 and Article 73 of the 1992 Constitution enjoins the President and all of us who will be working in the foreign service space that our strategic national interest should always be at the center of our foreign policy considerations. If you have neighbors who are being totally taken over with extremism, terrorism, and indeed all our neighbors have been attacked except Ghana, and we know that if situation gets out of hand, the economic crisis also worsen, we will be affected. We are trading partners as well, and we have historic ancestral ties. There are many Ghanaians who trace their roots from Burkina Faso, from Niger, from Mali. So it is very strategic for President Mahama to say that I want to help resolve this Sahelian crisis. And that is why he appointed the respected Venerable Flight Lieutenant Colonel Lolade, who was an AU envoy on counter-terrorism and also has military clout and very close relations with some of these military leaders. So it is in our strategic national interest, as Article 40 and Article 73 enjoins us, and that is what informs President Mahama's position when it comes to our three neighbors who have formed AES.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we can follow up on that. Don't you think that our colleagues within the ECOWAS will be disappointed on the position the President has taken when they also have a different position?
The indications are that our neighbors are rather impressed with President Mahama's approach. They are really impressed that all of them were at his inauguration. And remember that even before President Mahama's intervention, ECOWAS did not just alienate them. ECOWAS took steps to dialogue, even appointed an envoy to try to talk to them to come back. Because some of the things they want to do, have a new passport, have a new bank, a new trading, it will really undermine our quest for regional integration. And the further bastardization and balkanization of the region is not what will help our collective economic interests, particularly at the time we are talking about the continental free trade arrangement. So I can assure you, my respected colleague, that these are steps in the strategic national interest of our country, and it is very welcoming. And I think that we should, as a House, support President Mahama to achieve his objectives. I think it will be to our collective credit if during our tenure as leaders in Parliament and in the executive, we were able to talk to our good neighbors to come back into the ECOWAS fold. I think that it will really be a good icing on the cake as ECOWAS celebrates 50 years in existence.
The Chairman, I want to ask the nominee again.
That is your second question.
Having attended, worked with AU, attended several meetings, Ghana has always taken a position when it comes to Kosovo and Serbia. When it comes to Sahrawi Republic, we even call them the Western Sahara and Morocco. And then Palestine and Israel. I mean, the government had a position. What will be your position vis-a-vis that of the President John Mahama's position when it comes to these countries that we all know what is to them?
This is a very interesting question on geopolitics and what should be our geopolitical positioning. And I would like to make reference to our foreign policy, which Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah presented to this House on the 16th of December 1959. He talked about Ghana's foreign policy being positively neutral, that we shall not look left or right, we shall look forward. And that is why after that, collaborated with his colleagues to establish a non-aligned movement in 1961. So Kwame Nkrumah said that as much as possible, we shall seek to be friends of all and enemies to none. So our posture will remain same. We will seek to be good friends to all of these countries. But being good friends, as Kwame Nkrumah said, on the 16th of December 1959, doesn't mean that if along the line there is a misstep, you engage in some violation of international law, you go against the rule-based order, it does not mean that we will not speak out or point it out to you. That is even what shows that we are really good friends. So in these countries you have listed, there are matters that are concerning. For example, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We take the view that the humanitarian crisis there is totally unconscionable and unacceptable. And it is with dismay that we will continue to urge for a resolution of the Middle East crisis. We remain committed to the two-state solution so far as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is concerned. We do not align with hardliners on both sides who say that one state should be totally annihilated, does not deserve to exist. No, we say that let's respect the UN resolution, a two-state solution. On Western Sahara, you may have heard that on the eve of President Akufo-Addo's departure, he instructed that we cut ties with Western Sahara. That certainly has created some anxiety and nervousness, and it marked quite a major departure from our position in the 1960s, 70s, and the 1980s. And you recall that we, in 1982, championed the cause of Western Sahara, which led to Morocco exiting the OAU, as it was known at the time, in 1982. So it was a very significant development, and a lot of our allies on the left are looking at Ghana's new posture. I can assure you that because this is a very sensitive matter, we will be open-minded. We will study exactly what the considerations were, what the experts advised President Akufo-Addo to take such a consequential decision. I mean, when you are in government, you may know things that others will not know. I mean, he received national security briefings, he's at ECOWAS, OAU, AU now, and all of that, UN. So we want to keep an open mind. We will go and study what the considerations were, what analysis went into this decision. But the assurances I can give you, based on our foreign policy, is that we remain friends of all, enemies of none. Even if diplomatic ties may appear strained, as it is now in the Western Sahara question, it does not mean that our good friends in Western Sahara, we are going to disown them or cut ties with them in terms of the real people-to-people, cultural, and if you like, ideological ties with them. But it's a sensitive matter. We will go and study it, and then we will look at the way forward. I agree with you that they have allies on both sides. Of course, the Algerians are not happy because of this decision. The Moroccans have welcomed it. They are excited about it. But we need to balance forces based on our strategic national interest. And we will look into it and see how best we find a resolution moving forward.
I think I like how you responded, because Ghana has always taken a position, but that's fine. It's, like you mentioned, you get to find out in the ministry. Mr. Nofini, I also want to know, we have a foreign policy. Everybody knows that, non-aligned and all that. But we have also taken some critical interest in international issues, climate change and all that. What is our country's international environmental policy?
Another very important question for our generation. that is perhaps the most significant question. Will the human race survive if global warming, the ongoing climate change disruptions continue, if we do not change our way of life? And that is why the COP meetings have become so crucial. Unfortunately, the big players and the big polluters, we are not seeing consistency. They don't want to come to the table really following the science. There are some countries who are saying that they don't even really believe in the science and that it's probably exaggerated. What I like about the foreign ministry is that we facilitate these engagements amongst key sectors. So on climate change, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology will be the lead ministry. The Lands Ministry will also play a role, and I'm glad that I see the respected former Lands Minister at today's hearings. I know he took part in a lot of the climate change discussions. I followed those meetings keenly. So we will not be the lead ministry when it comes to climate change. It will be the Ministry of Environment, then the Lands Ministry. But we are happy to coordinate, to facilitate the meetings, and to make sure that Ghana is committed to our international obligations. And having said that, let me register our unhappiness at the latest withdrawal by the United States of America from the Paris Climate Accord. That was a very key intervention in the climate change agenda. Ghana played a leading role, I recall, under former President Mahama when he was president at the time. That has clearly created a disruption, but we will continue to urge our big brothers and sisters to come back to the climate change agenda and to commit to a new global order when it comes to climate issues. So that's how I respond.
Thank you.
Chairman, a last follow-up on this.
Honorable member, you are either asking your last question.
Yes.
You are entitled to one follow-up, which you have asked. So you either move to your last question. After this, I'll give you no opportunity.
Yes, I'm going to my last question. This, I think, it is for the jury out there. There have been lots of concerns about our female in the Western, particularly inhumane treatment, abuses and all that. Even though we admit that it is out of their own private businesses and other things that lands them there, it has some implications on our international image. What is going to be the position of this government on this mass movement, UAE, and then it will come back to us as a whole lot of inhumane abuses and all that? What will be the clear-cut position of this government?
Once again, let me commend you for this well-researched question. And this is a matter that I am very passionate about. One of the priority areas that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has tasked me to work on is how the foreign ministry is repositioned to help resolve the unemployment crisis in our country. Unemployment has moved from about 8.6% in 2016 to 14.7% currently, according to the Ghana Statistical Service. We need to make sure that this migration that is going on because of the search for employment benefits our country, it is regulated, and it's a win-win situation. Countries like Cuba, Indonesia, because of their strategic foreign policy, have been able to use their foreign policy. They sign bilateral agreements with other countries. They export labor, so their citizens citizens are well catered for because everything has been signed, done legally, so their rights are protected. A portion of revenue goes to the country, and then there is another portion that goes to the workers, particularly the Cuban Medical Brigade, if we are to look at the Cuban model. So under my leadership, I will seek to aggressively pursue economic diplomacy in a way that allows for bilateral agreements to be signed. There are many countries looking for Ghanaian nurses, looking for Ghanaian teachers, looking for Ghanaian professionals, looking for Ghanaian workers in the domestic sector, artisans. Why can't we take advantage of that to solve our unemployment crisis and also to regulate the space so that what is happening in the Gulf to some of our workers, our fellow compatriots, is addressed? When these receiving countries know that the labor they have received is not from some clandestine agency engaged in some, human trafficking operation, they will be mindful in how they treat these workers. So expect that one of our priority areas will be using foreign policy to address unemployment. We can make sure that great trade becomes great trade, where these bilateral agreements will help create jobs for the young people of our country. You go out there to the UK as a nurse, as a doctor, if it's probably for a 5-year period, you get some new skills, you build capacity, you can decide to come back with some good, foreign currency, and the country also benefits. So expect that we will formalize these arrangements and be very deliberate and aggressive about it to create jobs for young people.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Speaker and the nominee and once again congratulate him for his appointment.
I move to give the floor to Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nominee, congratulations. I'm one of the many Ghanaians who are very happy to see you where you are seated this morning. Nominee, I've worked with you in the 7th Parliament and in the 8th Parliament as my leader on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And I appreciate the leadership skills and knowledge that you bring to where you are sitting this morning. When you get to the ministry, what would be some of your priority areas?
Thank you very much, Dr. Okudzeto Ablakwa, and thank you for the kind words and the tremendous support you gave me for 8 years on the Foreign Affairs Committee as my deputy ranking. I have just talked about one of the priority areas, economic diplomacy, pursuing bilateral agreements to create jobs for the young people of our country in a regulated migration that benefits the individual and the country. The other thing that I want to reform is our passport regime. There are too many complaints about how difficult it is to get passports and to get them in good time. I have been going through some briefs and I noticed that we have a backlog of over 70,000 passports that have not been collected. Then there are issues with the middlemen, borough boys and all of that. I recall the former foreign minister, the Honorable storming the passport office in frustration and saying that, look, this crisis cannot continue. I would like to use technology to reform our passport regime. I don't think that we should still be requiring Ghanaians who have a Ghana card to go to passport office for their biometrics. This system of silos.
Honorable nominee, the question was priority areas. You mentioned economic diplomacy, and you mentioned passport acquisition. If there is any other, mention it to us so that we can make progress.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I thought that you would be interested in the details, how I'm going to implement these reforms. So, just to be brief, I get your cue. I would want to engage the Ministry of Communications. I've already started talks with the Honorable Sam George, so that you don't need to go to a passport application center if you have a Ghana card. We should be able to interface. It should be possible to sit at home, apply for your passport. And then also, I want to end this business of going back to the passport office for your passport. It's so outmoded. We can engage courier services to send your passport to you at home or in the office. So modernizing the whole regime as we move from the current biometric to chip embedded passports will be a matter of importance to me. Then the third one, as I conclude, is a reform of the institution, the Foreign Service. I would like to introduce a department that will focus on delivery, the delivery unit. I want us to give clear KPIs to our ambassadors and our high commissioners. Now, where we are in the current global ecosystem, you can't be relying on aid, relying on loans, relying on other countries. Let's aggressively pursue economic diplomacy. When we send you there as an ambassador, it's not just to be attending events. You must bring us something home that will impact the lives of the people. How many investors are you bringing in? How many industries? FDI and all of that. So they will be given clear KPIs. Because if you look at last year's budget, we spent more than 875 million Ghana cedis on our foreign service staff alone. That's almost $1 billion. And you ask yourself, there's 71 missions out there. What are they bringing in? And that is why many people think foreign affairs is so removed, so abstract. What do we even get from foreign ministry? We are going to change that perception. Clear KPIs, you must bring something home. If within 1 year we are not seeing benefits, you will be reshuffled so that we'll send in ambassadors who will be more dynamic, who will be proactive in our national interest.
Thank you. Any further question?
Mr. Chair, I think the nominee has done well with my question. I don't have any more questions. I just want to congratulate him. And once again, I want to say I'm very happy to see you where you are. And I want to thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for your nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. I proceed to give the floor to Honorable Okudzeto. Honorable Okudzeto, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me begin by congratulating the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa for his nomination to this very high office as and occupying the shoes of statesmen like Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, Obeda Samoa, Victor Gbewo, and the rest, especially at his age, is quite a significant achievement, and warm congratulations. Mr. Chairman, Ghana's policy, foreign policy, since 1957, has essentially been non-aligned. And as the nominee himself articulated in one of his responses, if I would say, we never look left or right, we look forward, and we don't take sides. Indeed, if you look at the NDC manifesto, specifically page 160, you will see that that same policy is articulated. And then President Mahama in his inaugural address also reiterates the point. When I followed the nominee, I read most of his articles, his presentations, news articles about him and all of that. And it is clear on the evidence that the nominee is a leftist. I would say he's a socialist. I will refrain myself from saying that he's a communist. I will refrain myself from saying so. You will see, Mr. Chairman, that the nominee, for example, wrote a tribute to His Excellency John Pombi Makafuli and delivered it on the floor of Parliament when he died on 17th March 2021. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, the nominee's views are known as a radical left. How is he going to marry his obvious personal, ideological leanings and inclinations, which he's on many occasions said he's very proud of, in wiggling his way through this complex international geopolitics of the left and right as it relates to Ghana's policy of non-aligned? Thank you.
This question could have been asked without making reference to all those documents. Please proceed to answer the question.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me place on record that I am not a communist. Of course, I am left of center. All of us in the NDC subscribe to the left of center political ideology, which we are very, very proud of. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has worn the badge proudly because we believe in the welfare state and we believe in humanity to our economic interventions that don't encourage exploitation, particularly by a few elites. So you are right about where I belong ideologically, left of center, which is where my party, the NDC, belongs. So I am very much at home. Having said that, let us remember Kwame Nkrumah's tact and skillful approach to our foreign policy. Kwame Nkrumah was on the left, but he managed to, at the height of the Cold War, a bipolar era, to still get the Americans to support him in the construction of the Okudzeto Dam, and to still have the Russians to help him in building our atomic agency. So that model is what we must adopt. So our friends know where we belong ideologically, but they respect us and they know that we don't mean harm or we don't bear grudge or have any malice. We are friends of all and enemies to none. So be rest assured that even though I have left leanings, I will be very objective in pursuing our foreign policy, which Article 40 says must be guided by our national interests. Kwame Nkrumah did it, President Mahama has been doing it, receiving support from all sides. And in the current multipolar world, be rest assured that I will attend to this responsibility with all fairness and objectivity. Note from my CV that in the 8th Parliament, I was chair of the Ghana-Cuba Parliamentary Friendship Association, but also very active in our US Ghana Parliamentary Friendship Association. Indeed, a proud member of the American Council of Young Political Leaders. So there are a few of us who straddle and who are liked by all sides because we are very objective in our dealing. So be rest assured, I consider myself a good friend of all the forces at play in the global arena.
Chairman, that is really assuring, and I think, Chairman, it's important that we lay the proper foundations before we ask the questions so that both the nominee and the country.
Please don't litigate with me.
No, I'm not litigating, Chairman. I'm just. So I have a follow-up question. Now, again, Mr. Chairman, the nominee is on record to have, if you want, not so much criticized, but raise substantive and significant issues with Ukraine as opposed to the West in the Ukraine-Russian war. And I have an article here where the nominee indicates that the war between Russia and Ukraine, which has been roundedly condemned by all international organizations, the United Nations, African Union, ECOWAS, and the rest, is as a result of Ukrainian failure of foreign policy. Mr. Chairman, also the nominee is on record to have taken issues with the West in its dealings with Israel as it relates to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the point I seek to make is that the nominee is obviously in his years of activism taking sides in these two major international conflicts of the world. If we get the nod of this committee and parliament, how is he going to navigate his way through this complex issue of Ukraine-Russian war, Palestinian-Israeli war, mindful of its rippling effects in the global geopolitics? How's he going to do that? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and let me commend the Honorable Okudzeto for the well-researched question. The challenge that we all face, I've said on the appointments committee, is that you have to summarize, and so you can't read these articles in full. But those who will want to pay regard to the articles, you see that I try to be very objective and balanced and more nuanced than a summary.
The conclusion whether you've taken sides, is it correct?
No, the conclusion is far-fetched. I have not taken sides. And Mr. Chairman, I know you'll be happy to hear that I have been invited by both sides. There are probably few people who have achieved that. The Russians invited me, and I was guest in their parliament. There was a second invitation where I went with former President Mahama to launch his book at the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Russian translation. And then the Ukrainians invited me. I spent a week there. We were, touring Kiev and other places. We went to landmines. I helped them to even demine, some of the Russian mines that had been left in Ukraine. So that should tell you, the countries don't have any issues with me. Israel has invited me on a number of occasions. The Palestinians have also done that. Indeed, the Palestinian ambassador in Ghana is one of my very, very good friends. And so is the Israeli ambassador. So please be rest assured that despite my ideological stance on these matters, you will see objectivity. But Article 40 is clear. We must also, in the pursuit of our foreign policy, be guided by international law, a rule-based order, international principles. So where our friends err, we should be bold to point it out. Because as Nkrumah said on the 16th of December 1959, when he presented our foreign policy to Parliament, he said that we will not be passive spectators, that as good friends, when you err, when you commit genocide, when you commit atrocities against women and children, we will point it out to you. And it does not make us bad friends. It rather, makes us very, very good friends. So that's the position I take on these matters.
Thank you very much. Your last question. Or you have a follow-up on this?
This was a follow-up.
It cannot be.
No,
it cannot be.
I said so that it was a follow-up.
No. The fact that you said so doesn't mean it should be a follow-up.
No,
please ask a follow-up question whether he is taking sides in these various wars that you have mentioned. Please go ahead with a follow-up question on this.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I asked a question about his leaning on taking sides, and I made a follow-up on the specific issue of whether or not he takes sides. It was all about taking sides. Thank you.
How is he going to marry?
No, it was taking sides, and then I gave a specific example whether he takes sides.
This is your last question.
Last question.
If you have a follow-up on this, I will allow it.
Chairman, this is it. I can give you the documentation I use. No, because it's a follow-up. It was a follow-up on the first question. Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, the question I want to ask the nominee the second question. Is the nominee, if he's given the nod as foreign minister, as I said initially, it's a very high office. And as he himself has been articulating, it will require, in his words, rules-based, require a lot of fairness, objectivity, and all of that. Mr. Chairman, on 23rd December 2024, the nominee made a post where he alleged that unimpeachable evidence from the Lands Commission shows that the two daughters of President Akufo-Addo have acquired some state lands in cantonments, and that amounted to state capture. Mr. Chairman, the company which was the subject matter of this allegation was Unam Company Limited. Mr. Chairman, a search at the Lands Commission will show that the land in question is the property of administrators of the estate of Justice, the late Justice Johnson Sribo, a former Justice of the Supreme Court and Chairman of the Electoral Commission, who acquired the land as far back as 1969, specifically on 1st June 1969. And indeed, Mr. Chairman, at the time, the President's children were not even born. The subject matter land was acquired by the states, Mr. Chairman, as far back as 1869, and the lease will end in 2069. So clearly, this land is not state land. The President's children did not buy state land. On the evidence, on the record, it is absolutely clear that they did not buy state land. Will the nominee concede, given that he's seeking to be foreign minister and will be required to be fair to all manner of persons, that the President's children were wrongly accused and he will apologize to them? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, your quick answer. Well, thank you very much for the question. The Honorable Abujinapo will recall that when I put out that article, I supported the article with evidence from the Lands Commission. I attached an official search that I had conducted on those two lands. Indeed, those are lands that you have in Sonam and then a lot, boutique, fashion boutique. And I sought to inquire from the Lands Commission the status, the ownership of the land. And the Lands Commission responded in that official search, which I published, and Ghanaians can go on my social media handles. You see the official search results, where the Lands Commission, in their response, indicated that all those lands are government lands. So in my article, I asked a question: is this allocating state lands to his daughters? It was a question based on empirical evidence, what the Lands Commission had told me in writing as official search results when I put in that official search. So there is really no need to apologize on this matter. We need to probably be discussing reform the Lands Commission. You were Lands Minister. If you think that the Lands Commission misled me, you need to join us with ideas on how to reform the Lands Commission, get their data to be more accurate, so that when we conduct official search, what they tell us, the reports that they give us, their search certificates, are not misleading, because all of the facts you put out, I don't know them. In 1979, I was born. The Lands Commission told they are government lands, and I have the document. Please, this the question relates to the acquisition.
Well, it relates to the protection of estates, generally speaking. And the question is very simple. In that protection, Mr. Chairman, you will see that the nominee has, on multiple occasions, asked for quotes the state to eschew frivolous end quotes. And
with the most emphasis forcefully. So we will seek to establish the consular fund. And in the KPI